Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is everything is just fine. Not. Okay, before I get started with what is going on, let me give you a little good news. So, today I went to see my doctor, cardiologist, and he did an EKG. I'd show it to you, but probably not making sense. But what I want you to see is these words right at the top. It says sinus rhythm. Oh, sounds to me like something that goes on up here. But he said, no, 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 no. He said, you see that? He said, that's a good report. And he was thrilled. He had nothing but good to say about my EKG. And I had nothing but good to say about how I've been playing. I said, okay, I'll just tell you. He said, I think you had this problem for a long time. And I told him, I said, I think I had this problem since birth. The reason is I can't recall a time in my life when I would go out to do anything, tetherball, football, baseball, but what the first 2 or 3 minutes was always me just trying to catch my breath, and then it seemed to go away. Well, I said, I've never had it like this. But for the last 4 times I've played racquetball, hour and a half, 2 hours of hard racquetball, several of them were singles games, I walked out on the court and I never did get to huffing and puffing. As a matter of fact, when I was done playing 2 hours of racquetball, I was not breathing much more than I am right now. And I said also, I sweat a whole lot less. He said, that's because your heart is not having to work so hard. Now, as a result of your heart working so hard, you're in really good shape because now it's very efficient. So anyway, I wanted to share that little bit of good news with you. Now, you may be saying, well, Stan, why should we care? I'll tell you why. I remember in 1997, when Dimitri died, I was very upset because I thought that he was going to be able to guide us through what I thought was about to be the tribulation starting. And I wanted someone there that knew what was going on to be able to explain what was going on. Well, I sort of think that that's what God has put me in the position to do for those people that want to hear my opinion. So, do you want me around? Hopefully, you do. I know my wife does, and I know my children do, and so hopefully you do too, because I think that these end times have started, and I think we're about to see them get a lot hotter and heavier, so to speak. So hopefully you appreciate Stan Johnson, Prophecy Club, and all the people that hold up my arms behind the scene that you don't see. And my thanks to all of them. Second thing is, so I woke up this morning out of, I say a dream, I can't remember what I saw, but what I do remember is that he spoke to my heart and gave me that like sick feeling like I've only had about 4 times. Okay, ministry been going like 40 years, okay? And I've only had this happen about 4 times. Last night was one of them. And he was warning me that I need to start scrambling. I need to start doing something. And the only thing I could do is just ask you for help. So I'm asking. So he was saying that Prophecy Club is about to be in financial trouble. And, we don't have a savings account. We don't have, I mean, I got a little bit of silver and a little bit of gold, but it's not enough to last more than a few weeks. Okay. So hopefully you want me and the Prophecy Club around to help guide you, to be able to explain you through these days ahead, because I think they've started. As a matter of fact, just to say something else a little on the personal note behind the scenes. So I keep getting my wife and my staff coming to me and saying, when are we going to do another crusade? I said, I'm not doing a crusade until we see the judgment hits. Remember, I was told, audible voice, as the judgment hits, so will my miracles. But I think we're looking at possibly as early as first quarter of next year. If we could make it to the end of next year, I think we'll be doing really, really good. And I hope that you want Prophecy Club around to explain to you what is going on. So if God has blessed you and you can help us right now, we need your help. I don't know another way to say it. We need your help. Okay, so on to the topic. Trump to pay 50% of food stamps benefits this month, but says no more is coming after that. Well, I think that's fabulous because that gives everybody like a little bit of a step down instead of just a total cutoff. Now, do we think that that's going to solve the problem? Probably not. We're probably still looking at some protests in November. We might be seeing a whole lot less because they're at least getting half. That's a little bit of a help. And the article goes on to say that the government needs about $9 billion, nine with a B, billion dollars a month in food stamps that we just give away. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say nobody needs it because I've seen people that need it, okay? And I would much rather have them getting help from the government than sleeping under some tree. But on the other hand, you and I both have seen cases where they really need to go get a job. Okay, they're able, and Obama took that requirement away. I think they need to bring that requirement back. But anyway, so they found 4.65 billion, or about half enough, so they're going to be able to give people roughly 50% of what they normally get for the month of November, but they're openly saying no more after November. Well, that gives people a little bit of a scare when they open that up, or however it works, when they discover they're getting half what they normally get. That's going to make them scramble. And the problem is there's a lot of people looking for jobs right now. I mean, all the government people, Amazon and Walmart, many of the other big companies are laying people off for a lot of different reasons. Now, a lot of people blame it AI, and maybe AI is a big part of it. But the point is, there's a lot of folks looking for jobs right now. So throwing another 42 million people that used to get free handouts from the government into the job searching circles is going to be tough. Reserve Bank of India calls emergency meeting over liquidity in a banking system. Sadly, this is not the first time we've seen something like this. And it says that they're tightening the liquidity in the banking system. The U.S. Federal Reserve had to pump $29.4 billion in cash into the U.S. banking system Friday night. Now, I have not been following the Federal Reserve long enough to know if that's never happened before. But from the articles, plural, that I read about this, apparently it's a very, very rare thing. And there are people out there that are saying we're getting close to a 1929 crash in several ways, and here's one of them. Something just broke. It appears that a liquidity crisis is upon us, and that is really bad news for the financial markets. Now, this is my friend Michael Snyder, amazing researcher. He said, what is the Fed not telling us? The numbers clearly indicate that big trouble is brewing in the banking system. Now, I wish that I could specifically tell you which banks are in the most trouble, but at this stage, we simply aren't being told anything. They probably figured that the best approach is to try to keep everyone as ignorant and as calm as possible. But they won't be able to keep the lid on it as going indefinitely. In other words, when the word finally gets out that people could start to panic in recent weeks, bank reserves have fallen to our alarmingly low levels. Well, it's not just bank reserves. It's also the homeless shelters, the feeding places, the food banks. They've been running low on food. I believe that it's not just an accident. I know a lot of people can say, oh, well, it's the devil or it's the devil people. Yeah, it is. But at the end of the day, none of this would be happening if we were a righteous nation. So that tells me at the end of the day, either God's hand is in it or God's permissive hand is allowing it. Because I think a lot of it is not just the people that lived here have turned away from Jesus, not just their children. The children were raised Christian, go off to the godless college and learn godless beliefs. But then we let some 21 million people into America, and if they came in breaking our laws, they're probably not Christians. So now, in the eyes of the Lord, when he looks down, he does not check passports. He looks down at the hearts living within those 50 states, or wherever lines he wants to draw. And then he gives blessings or cursings based upon the evil or the righteousness thereof, period. And sadly, I think when he's looking down at America right now, he's seeing a lot of sin. Consequently, you can expect more things to get worse. Let's go on with the article. He says U.S. bank reserves have crashed to a 4-year low, plunging to about $2.8 trillion, according to the latest Federal Reserve data, sending fresh warning signals across Wall Street and Washington. The steep decline marks the second straight week. Reserves have stayed below $3 trillion, a critical threshold analysts say could test the banking system liquidity strength. What's it saying? It's saying that the banks are like kind of wobbling like this, and they're about ready to fall. Remember the old saying, if it's not broken, don't fix it? I think either this is the white hats and their planned crash to bring in a new white hat banking system, the quantum financial banking system, based upon asset-backed currencies, or maybe this is just God's hand just bringing America down because of the sin. Either way, we are in crash territory financially as a nation. By itself, this doesn't sound necessarily a signal that we're facing a major crisis, but everyone agrees that what we're witnessing is certainly unusual, and you can look at the graph. And you see that way over the bottom right corner, it's way low. What is causing far more alarm is what occurred on Friday. All of a sudden, there was an insane amount of demand for overnight repo cash. That's what Hal Turner was referring to. Federal Reserve reportedly pumped about $24.9 billion into the market, skipping down. The Fed is quietly stepping in and stepping up. Something just got broke. Who suddenly needed much cash, and why did they need it? Some problem, big problem. The chart I posted below comes directly from the Federal Reserve, and it should send a chill to your core. By the end of the day Friday, it was quite obvious that something extremely strange had just happened. Now, I want you to look at the top right corner. You see the red arrow? As you look back for the last 2 or 3 years, ain't nothing been that high. I'm not an expert, but I can read a chart. That tells me that we're in trouble. Federal Reserve liquidity facilities caught on fire Friday as month-end pressures pushed a key lending tool to a record level of usage, skipping. The highest ever usage such tool was put in place in 2021 to provide fast loans collateralized with Treasury and mortgage bonds. At the same time, financial firms also parked a considerable amount of cash on Fed books, with the reverse repo facility seeing inflows of 51 point. Okay, so what's that saying? It says a major crisis is brewing. I've been trying to say that the prophecies say the problem is no more on the horizon. It's not at the end of the block. It's not at the end of the driveway. It's banging down our door. We haven't seen anything like this in many years. Bankruptcies soaring, delinquency rates spiking, thousands of stores, restaurants permanently shutting their doors. Just about everything just keeps getting more expensive. This is just the beginning, and most of the population understands this. 57% of the Americans expect economic conditions to get even worse. Now, I'm not trying to be a doomsday here, but I am trying to say if you've got gold and silver, you're in a better position. If you have your money in paper defined as actual U.S. dollars, in a bank, in a mattress, someplace like that, I can't give financial advice, but I think that's a dangerous position. If you've got your IRA, your 401k, your life's savings tied up in an IRA 401k, if you'll call these guys, they can show you how, at no cost to you, you can switch it from being paper-backed to gold or silver-backed. And you can get quick access to it in an emergency situation if you need to. Yeah, if you take it out, there's a penalty. Okay, fine. I'd rather have the money and pay the penalty than not have anything, just simply lose it. Okay? 800-200-GOLD. 800-200-4653. Doesn't cost, doesn't hurt anything. Call them. It's on their nickel. Okay, call them. Doesn't cost anything. Now, this is one of the last things I want to point out before I get to some repeating prophecies that, sad to say, are in process of fulfilling. So this lady, the Patriot nurse, says the Great Depression, too, is here. Despite the mainstream media's relentless narrative that times are good, stock market is high, and all is well, the truth is far different. I like what Trump says. It makes me feel good. But at the same time, I believe the prophecies more than I believe anything else. Believe God's prophets, and so shall you prosper. The labor market is beginning to show significant signs of stress. Amazon has laid off large number of corporate white-collar workers. Others are following suit. Walmart is poised to do the same. Don't forget, the government has laid off, 500,000 workers or something like that? Vast swaths of middle-class, educated, skilled, white-collar professionals are being dismissed from their jobs because AI is replacing them. This trend is not going to stop. It's going to get worse. It'll only accelerate. Just as we sit atop the largest asset bubble in U.S. history, the current housing bubble is second only to the 2008-2009's crisis. Meanwhile, the dollar has lost roughly 50% of its purchasing power. I showed you that. Since before COVID, taken together, friends, we are facing a perfect storm. That's exactly the words Shane Warren used, a perfect storm. And as a matter of fact, Chris Reed used the same words. We're already in it and heading straight into its heart. Now, all of that is new information. And if you follow us every day, you can probably cut away now. But I'm about to read some that I think are the most important prophecies having to do with this topic right here. One, I think this is extremely important. You be ready, Byron Searle says, I saw in a vision, the show has begun. Now, what's that mean? I think it's saying that the end time show, meaning the sevenfold miracles, the judgment, probably an earthquake, probably a fall of the dollar, all of the things that we've been warned of now for 10, 15, 20 years. In the case of Dmitry, 40 years. All of a sudden, they're here. He says, and I saw a bear, representing Russia, then a large leopard, representing the Muslims, and a parrot representing the people that don't know what's going on. They just repeat what CNN tells them. Then Jesus' angel ripping pages out of the Constitution, setting them on fire. And because of that is the reason I think the Constitution is going bye-bye. I think that I think their heart and their objective is to get the bad guys out and then bring the Constitution with the few minor changes, hopefully improvements, back. But I don't think it's ever coming back. Constitution setting them on fire, the clowns poured on gasoline, meaning our Constitution, my brothers and sisters, is gone. Is gone. The clowns pouring on gasoline. The bear knocked the book out of the ringmaster's hand. People cheered, thinking it was a show. So when people see the Constitution gone, they cheer. Now, how does that fit in with what Jason Meeks was shown? He's shown that when the new financial system comes in, when the massive arrests start, when Trump is made president of the new Republic of the United States, they cheer and they rejoice. Same thing here. See how these words, that's the reason I'm covering it again. These words fit together and confirm each other. The parrot was people who just repeated what they heard. They're just CNN mouth. Ask them, well, what does from the river to the sea mean? I don't know. Well, why are you against the Jews? I don't know. Well, what about Trump? Oh, he's a fascist. Well, what is the definition of fascism? Well, I don't know. They don't know. They're just paid to go out there and protest. First, the monitor had scenes of war without bombs. That's where we are now. Second, I saw war with bombs, exploding, fires burning. Third, people running for their lives. I think that is the big war. Not the biggest of wars. Let me explain. The biggest of wars is Armageddon. That's the very last war. But the biggest of wars, as far as America is concerned, is when Russia attacks and destroys America in 1 hour. That's probably talking about it or leading up to it. But the ringmaster destroyed all three. Tent went black. That's Jesus returning and burning the terrors up. Now, let me tie this together. I've covered this many, many times. We got 38 prophecies saying suitcase nuke's going to hit America. That's big. I got 17, let me back up. 17 says a meteor is going to cause a tsunami and an earthquake up our eastern seaboard. 17 say we're looking at food shortages. Now, unfortunately, this is not the order of fulfillment. 13 say the dollar is going to fall. 8 say there's going to be massive arrests. And 7 say there's a surprise Russian nuclear attack. I hope you've written those down. If not, I think that's a very risky thing to do. I think that we're going to be able to sit here and cross those off as those start coming to pass. I don't know the order, but I want to be prepared when all of them hit. Now, let me jump to 2 dreams from Jason Meeks. And I think that these are among the most important. He's been through Leslie's School of the Prophets. He's a prophet. He says, the dream started out me standing in line at a grocery store in a strip mall, not standing inside the store, but outside with thousands of people in line. Are you listening? Thousands of people in line. We were all waiting to get into the store to buy food. The store was only letting in a few people at a time, and the shoppers in the store had to purchase and leave before others were let into the shop. Now, is that saying they don't have any money? Or is that saying that they don't have anything to buy? Or maybe a combination thereof. It looked like the 70s communist breadline in the Soviet Union. People were waiting so long, some were getting a haircut at a barbershop next door. I'll skip the next part. When they got inside the store, I went to purchase some eggs. Went in, you could buy a few items, but there was no loading your cart with whatever. You just got like a bag full, okay? Package of jumbo eggs there, barely a few eggs. I'll skip part of that. I knew that the only way we were going to make this food was because we had previously purchased what we needed. Eggs would be used making the bread. We could not have survived off of eggs alone. In the dream, we had already eaten everything in our house, all canned goods, peanut butter, etc. And the reason that I went to get eggs was to supplement our bread we were making. They were living off of bread. This was months after whatever had caused the food shortage. At this point, people were peaceful, but if you had more than a handful of food, they would take the chance and steal it from you. I can pull up, I'm going to say in the ballpark between 8 and 10 more prophecies that sound just like that. Scene changed. We were in a Zoom meeting with people all over, and I'll pause and let you read that, but it's basically directing people how to get food. And here's more. I'll let you pause and read that if you want to. Let me get on to the next one. So we had this one in 2021, Jason Meeks' dream. And I think this might be one of the most important, obviously outside of Dimitri Duduman and Shane Warren and a couple others. The dream starts out we stopped at an ATM machine to get some cash. He didn't get enough money, so he put his card in again, but everything had changed. The financial system changed, meaning the financial system we have changes that fast. When the financial change took place, then we saw major bank television screens showing massive arrests had started. When does that start? Well, truth is, I don't know, but I'm going to guess on about around January 12th of 2026. Stan, why do you say that? Because at least 2, maybe 3 times I've read for you where on September the 26th of 2025, there was a quietly impaneled grand jury at Fort Pierce. Why a fort? We don't normally hold court meetings or grand juries at a fort. We do if it's going to be a military tribunal. That's my guess. That's probably the military tribunal started. Well, you don't start a military tribunal unless you got some bodies to try, right? So where do you get that? My guess is massive arrests. Remember, I told you I heard 2 words back to back, massive arrests, massive arrests. So in that, it said it twice. It's confirming this is of God. So I think I have, thus saith the Lord, massive arrests are coming. So he saw massive arrests. Then he saw Donald Trump assuming control as the new president. Now, this is before. Let me go back. Look at the date on this. This is back in 2021. He was not president in 2021. Okay? So what's he saying? He was assuming control as the new president because he's the new president of the new Constitution, the new name, the new financial system, the upper lowercase Republic of the United States. DJT is assuming control of the new president. I expected people would be rioting and looting, but they were happy and celebrating. We haven't seen happy and celebrating in our streets. We didn't see it November 5th. We didn't see it January 20th. We've not seen that. Why would they be happy and celebrating? I don't think it's because there's a change in money. I don't think it's because of a change in the name of our nation. I think it's because a lot of people want to see big people like Obama and Pelosi and some others arrested. That will get people out celebrating. I mean, let's face it. If Obama were arrested, if he's done anything bad, and I can't prove he's done anything bad. I don't know. Who am I, But if he has, I think a lot of people would like to see that justice brought. Let's go on. In the dream, a man came to me and started crying, saying how all of his evil bosses had been arrested and rounded up, telling me he was now in charge of the bank. He was a Christian and had been praying for this for years. In other words, massive arrests. As people took to the streets in victory celebration, we joined in, we jumped onto the back, and then suitcase nukes. Which is why, if you don't have one of these, I've got one right here. If you don't have one of these, I'd recommend you go to empshield.com. Use the promo code Prophecy. You want to put one of these on each one of your cars. They also have one for your house. You just pull off the strip off the back, stick it under there. The red goes to red, green to the body, and black to the black side of the terminal of your battery. And they have videos up there show you how to put them on. It took me about 10 minutes to put on each one of our cars and also on a house. I had to go down and buy an extra breaker to put it on the house. But again, they have videos show you how to do that. EMPShield.com, promo code Prophecy. If you don't have one of those, look, if you want your car to start when no one else starts, if you want your computers to work when all the other computers have been fried, then it would be a very good idea for you to have one of these. EMPShield.com, promo code Prophecy. Finally, I don't like asking. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating. It tells me that I'm not doing a good job. So, I'm thinking, if I were doing a good job, that people would support us, right? So when I have to say, well, we're not making it, someplace in there has got to come back and point at me. So that's how I look at it. As, if I'm doing a good job, I shouldn't have to keep asking for help. So if God has blessed you and you can help Prophecy Club and you want Prophecy Club there guiding you through these days ahead, then if you can help us, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. If you want to be on the end of making money, gold and silver is preserving your money. If you want to be on the end of making money, then you might want to call prophecyclubcrypto.com or actually go to it or call that number at the bottom right corner. Ask them about crypto if you're in the position where you can make money. Okay, the very best offer we have ever had at the Prophecy Club is 40 books for a gift of $100. That is How Pre-Trib Won, Tribulation Secrets in Daniel, God's Warnings to America, Miss the Mark, and The Secret Door to Understand Bible Prophecy. I'll explain. As I've said many times in 2017, I memorized the book of Revelation. I got 30 revelations, 2 visions, and an audible voice. God showed me a secret door, the word first fruits, which is found in Leviticus and also Revelation, that links the feasts to the prophecies of Revelation. And perhaps for the first time, Revelation can be understood. One prophetic word said, there's a lock. I put over a word in the book of Revelation. I'm going to open it to you. It will turn many books written on the end time message into obsolete books. That's this book. Secondly, I put together a collection of the very best prophecies from 32 years in Bible prophecy: Dimitri Duduman, Michael Boldale, Leslie Johnson, Henry Groover, Shane Warren, Terry Bennett, Maurice Sklar, Augusto Perez, Doug Metzger, Bree Keaton, and more in God's Warnings to America. Also, how do you talk to people about the mark of the beast, especially if they worship another god? Well, simple way is give them this book. It's a quick read. Takes about 3 hours to read it. But if they'll read 2 or 3 pages, they'll probably read the book. And if they read the book, they will never take the mark of the beast. It explains both the mark of the beast and also the number of the name, and it has these pictures in the book. Finally, how pre-trib won. This book explains the truth about the rapture. It gives 4 foundations for the real truth about the rapture. It also answers 25 pre-trib questions, 1 for $20, each one of these typically, but don't do that. We offer them in shrink-wrap sets. The very best deal is go to prophecyclub.com and get the entire 40-book set for $100. I didn't cover every verse in the book of Daniel, didn't need to. I just covered the verses that has to do with us end-time saints. And it's called Tribulation Secrets in Daniel, 1 for $20, 10 for $30, 20 for $50 at prophecyclub.com.